Hi guys, welcome back to Staying Creative. Today is another cooking episode, another crock pot recipe that I'm going to share with you that I actually found on Pinterest. A friend of mine posted this quick pot roast recipe on Pinterest and I thought I'd give it a try. It's I think it's called the Poor Man's Pot Roast. So yeah, it's about 1 o'clock and it should only take about 4 to 6 hours and it'll be ready for dinner. And let's get started. Let's start with the ingredients. The recipe says to use 1 pound of ground beef, but I'm using ground turkey, and I'm using 3 pounds because I'm going to make enough to last a couple days. And I'm using a smaller crock pot because this isn't as many ingredients. It might look like a lot, but it's really not. So I'm using a smaller crock pot. Look at that. My golden potatoes, so I don't have to peel them. That's 3 pounds. The recipe says to use 1.5. I probably will only use 2, maybe 3. I don't know. An onion. It doesn't call for tomatoes, but I'm going to include some tomatoes just because I think it might add a little more flavor. Garlic powder. It actually says to use garlic cloves, but I forgot to buy it at the store, so I'm just using garlic powder. Salt and pepper. It says to use onion powder, but my son used all my onion powder and I don't have any, so I'll just have to do with what I have. Some Mrs. Dash and some oregano leaves and some tomato paste, some carrots, and you could add celery if you want, but the recipe doesn't call for it, and I don't like celery that much, but if you want to, add it. Okay, so I will get started with cooking the ground turkey, because you don't add it to your crock pot raw. You have to cook it down. So let's do that first. I've got the stove to medium heat and I have the lid on. This will help warm your pot even faster. Just a little tip. So now I got the ground turkey in the pan and it's sizzling and it's cooking. But to help speed up the process, put your lid back on, check on it in about a minute or two, and start breaking it up, and then put the lid back on. It just helps speed up the cooking process. Okay, so now that it's starting to cook on the bottom, I'm going to start stirring the salt up. I mean breaking it down, sorry. So you want to make sure you break down the meat before it cooks too well, because then it'll be harder to break up. So while it's still soft, start tearing it or breaking it off into these chunks with your spatula. Okay, so I'm going to keep on doing this and be back when it's ready to drain. Okay, I've drained most of the fat out of my ground turkey, but I've kept a little bit of it because I think it might add some flavor to the poor man's pot roast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to season this meat with a little salt, lots of pepper, lots of garlic powder. Let's stir that up. And I'm going to add some Mrs. Dash. So now that's done, because it's going to cook for 6 hours in the crock pot. I'm just going to go ahead and let that cool down a little, because I don't want to put this in the crock pot all this hot. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit so I don't burn myself when I mix everything in my crock pot. So I'm going to cut my tomatoes. Whoa. And I'm just going to... They're so slippery! Whoa, they're so juicy too. Which is good. So I think I'm gonna just have them in cubes, kind of like that size. I'm just gonna put him in my crock pot. Get the skin off. Okay. And I'm just going to cut this up. Like this, I guess. Ah! Why you fly away, onion? I don't know why you did that. It's making me mad. Okay, so I think I'll cut this maybe, maybe right down the middle. Yeah. I'm not going to peel this potato because if it's a poor man's pot roast, then it should be rustic and fibrous. And I don't peel. It's got these little bits that I don't like, so I want to cut those off. I'm going to try to cut the potatoes a little bit smaller than normal because I want it to cook faster. So, okay, really quick, let me show you about the size that I'm going to cut my carrots. So, like this size. Put them in. To save time, if you can do 2 at a time. Careful, watch your fingers. Curl your fingers in so you don't cut any of your fingers. See? Okay, now I've got the carrots in the crock pot. I also added my oregano. And the recipe says to take your tomato paste with all of the seasoning and some water to thin out the tomato paste and put it in your crock pot. But I thought it might taste better if I add the tomato paste to the ground meat. I thought it'd be more flavorful that way. So that's what I did. I took the entire 12-ounce can of Hunt's tomato paste and put it on top of my ground turkey. And I'm going to stir that around, mix it up, and then when that's evenly incorporated, put it into my crock pot. Okay, now that I have the tomato paste all incorporated into the ground turkey, I'm going to go ahead and put it into my crock pot with all the other ingredients. Okay, I got the meat into the crock pot and I mixed everything up really well. It looks like it's done already and it smells delicious. I stirred everything up and I just added a little bit more pepper, garlic, salt, and Mrs. Dash. And I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on now. Everything fits nice. See? And I have it on high. And I'm going to let it cook for about 4 hours and taste it, see if all the potatoes are soft. If it needs another hour or so, then I'll keep it on high depending on how tender the potatoes are. If not, I will switch it to low. But, so there you go. Poor man's pot roast. Let's see what it looks like in about 4 to 6 hours. Because I tripled the amount of meat that the recipe called for, I'm going to add some tomato sauce just because I want it more stewy. And with the way it looks right now, I think it's going to be a little dry. So I'm going to add some tomato sauce. I also added a squirt of ketchup because I like it sweet. So I used about the whole can. And I'm going to stir that all together and let it cook. Okay, here's the finished product. I'm serving it with some steamed rice because you can mix the sauce with the rice and make one big goulash. So I tasted it. It's really delicious. I hope you guys try this. Let me know what you think and please subscribe. Okay, bye.